everybody. Hope you're all doing well. We are going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the Ravens Writing Room. Today it's going to be a little bit different. First, let's make sure that all audio is working and y'all can hear me fine. I want to make sure that there is no trouble, no issue. Hello, hello. Make sure that all is as it should be. Welcome, welcome, one and all. Hey, Hannah, glad you're here. All right. So, today, things are going to be a bit different. This isn't a story reading stream. That's tomorrow. We'll be doing that tomorrow. This is a Ravens Writing Room, which is usually where I give writing advice, but tonight is going to be a little bit fun. We're going to do some writing brainstorming. We're going to be chatting about writing advice and writing techniques. Y'all get to ask me your questions about storytelling or how I write and anything like that, and I will be happy to answer with whatever I can. So tonight is just going to be kind of our night, going to be a Q&A kind of night. Y'all get to ask me questions, and I will answer whatever I can. We might even get some writing done. We may have some fun. Who knows? We might write a legend of some sort. Who knows? I'm not sure what tonight's going to hold. This is very new territory for me. Usually I would be playing a game or something along those lines, but I cannot because my PlayStation is still acting a little wonky, and I don't trust it to hold a stream. It can barely hold a screen, let alone a stream. So let's not risk that. We'll wait until the replacement or new PlayStation comes in, and then we will go from there. So, with all that out of the way, welcome. So to start things off, I asked y'all in the Discord, if you're on the Discord and you're in the server, I asked y'all to start thinking of some questions you'd like to ask or things you'd like to discuss or have me reveal, like any writing secrets or strategies I have. Now is the time. So go ahead and ask your questions. I will be getting myself ready. Raven, my question to you is, how do you let music influence your storytelling as in setting the mood and the characters? Okay, so music can have a lot of different methods for me. So this stream probably isn't going to be monetized. I'll be real honest. I don't think it will be, so I don't think anyone will mind if we play around with some music, right? I don't think so. So let's do that right now. Let me pull up Spotify, and we will see what music can do. Okay, so let's go to some songs. So let's find one that will move me in a certain direction. Let's see. It can be anything. Let's see. Actually, got a better idea. Let's jump over to YouTube itself. Let's jump over to YouTube. YouTube might give us more options. Let's go to non-copyrighted music background. Let's try this. So let's see. Let's try this one. It's 2 minutes, so that'll be a good time frame for us. Let me put in my headphones so that I will not create an echo, because that will happen. Put in my headphones here. Okay. Yep. It's going to give me that little message. All right, let's do this. Headphones on. Turn off. Okay. So let's do this. It's non-copyright, so we shouldn't get in trouble for using it. Let's do it. Oh, did I not turn on the audio for this? One second. Seems to be good. I do not hear anything. Oh, there it is. There it is. I hear it now. Very low. Let's try a different one. This one's too low. Let's try a different one. What's something? How about this one? Let's try this one. Of course, we get ads. Skip. That one doesn't help at all. That's lo-fi beats. I need instrumental. I need choir. Let's try this. Non-copyrighted choir. Or let's try temple music. Let's try that. And if the headphones are going to be this uncooperative, I might as well just take them out. Ugh, that was annoying. All right. This should do. All right, let's see. Okay, this should do. Let's see. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Okay, with this kind of music, I'm seeing, with this kind of music, the mood I'm getting is somber, reflective, like thinking back on something or thinking forward on something. So let's play with that. So I'm going to play the music, and I'm just going to write what comes to mind when I play this. Okay, did the song end? The song ended. Okay. So what I got there was kind of a take on, like I said, a backdrop, like remembering, thought back to a better time or to a darker time, prayer, reverence. So music like that is what gets that kind of writing going. So what happens is I use specific types of music to build different kinds of views or ideas behind what I want to create. And so I would use that music if I wanted to create a somber kind of atmosphere like that. And you can see what I wrote on screen. I'll even increase the size of the screen so that y'all can see it a bit better. Yeah, just like that. So yeah, that's how that works. And of course I'd go back and I'd edit certain aspects of it. So of course give that a tab, add the T there. When I type fast, sometimes I create typos. Yeah, I would go back and fix some of this. I'd add some details, like I'd give the character a face, maybe a name. But right now, that is the sensation I get from it. So that is how music moves me. Ray, what would Apollyon be if she was in Warhammer 40k, one of the Chaos Cults, one of the Fallen Chapters, or Inquisitor? I don't know. Raven, why don't we fight a Death Angel sent that's... Why don't we write a Death Angel sent that's trying to help a Berserker move on and accept death? First, I would need to design the character. I would need to actually design the character before I start writing that out. Raven, what is your favorite Primarch in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2? Trick question. There are no Primarchs in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. There's never a Primarch, so can't answer that. Alright. Any other questions about writing? Hey Raven, when spacing the descriptions of characters and scenes, do you spread it out or get it in a single paragraph? Good question. It depends. So, for example, let's break up some writing here. So, let's say that I want to set a scene. So, actually, no, let's undo that. Let's bring that all back. So that is the setup. That's the scene I want to set. I can do some small additions. Like, for example, I could say cold air contrasted the warmth of my skin and blue blonde hair strands past my nose. So in doing that, I can create a... So in doing that, I can create a small descriptor. If I wanted to add more, I could go to another paragraph and maybe create a quote. I could say, Christina. Let's call our character Christina. At last, I lifted my head to see the one who called me. And then from there, I can work in how I want to do the descriptors. Usually what I do is, if I want a full paragraph dedicated to descriptor, I create a way in which the description can be given, like the character's looking in a mirror, or they're looking at a photograph, or something along those lines. If I'm talking in the third person, I can do it anytime I want. But in this case, it is the first person. I'm using I all the time, so it's a little bit more difficult. It's hard for me to describe myself without sounding too meta, if that makes sense. So that would be how I answer that. I was curious, how could I make my character feel alive? I feel like I have a bad habit of making them copies of each other, or I make them too robotic. That comes from voice. You want to create a solid voice for your character, give them a personality, and the key to that is knowing your character a bit more. Like, think about a realistic situation. So, let's say, for example, let's take this Christina character. She's pious, we can tell that much, but what else is she? We could say maybe she's nervous. Maybe she doesn't feel worthy. Maybe she speaks with a stutter. So maybe we could say this. Okay, so in this bit, I add some dialogue, and through the dialogue, I give, identity to the characters. So, for in this case, when she says, yes, Chancellor, we add a nervousness, a stutter. She's scared, she's afraid, she feels small. Then we can add, you've fallen behind again, the strict voice snapped. I dared not look up at him as he spoke. Again, we add some character to this. The strict voice implies that this person is a man of authority and doesn't like being challenged. And she doesn't look up at him because she's revering him. She's showing restraint. And then, forgive me, sir, I did not mean, cuts off, I know what you did not intend. I now wish to see you correct yourself. Move! So again, man of authority. She runs off, and then we see a little bit of her personality, he barked angrily. Without a word, I scurried ahead and to avoid another reprimand. I quietly hated the Chancellor for his crass voice and coldness, but I also hated myself for not being a better sister of faith. So we have a little bit of self-reflection, self-frustrations, anger about that sort of stuff. So we see that our main character, Christina, is unhappy with something. She doesn't like something about herself, and she also doesn't like the Chancellor. She sees less of herself. So when creating a character that feels more fleshed out, you want to add personality. You want to get to know this person. This isn't just a robot, You want to make sure that this person you're writing about stands out, if that makes sense. So that would be what I would say to that. You want to make them feel like a person who is more than just a character speaking. Favorite and least favorite trope? I don't really have a favorite or least favorite. I think my least favorite is the Chosen One trope. I feel like that one's done to death. And I don't really see a way you can really fix it without, subverting it. All right, bye, Ian. I know that not a lot of people are going to be as interested in this because it's just me teaching writing. I see, when dealing with a figure of wisdom, especially one who bears wisdom on yourself, don't have, how do you portray it without becoming tropic, whimsical, or ham-fisted? So when dealing with a figure of wisdom, especially one who bears wisdom you yourself don't have, how do you portray it without becoming tropic, whimsical, or ham-fisted? Sometimes those things are just going to come out. So let's change up the dialogue here. Let's reverse this. So let's take this back. So instead of this bit, let's change this. We're going to say that the Chancellor is actually very wise. So you've fallen behind again. Okay, so with this writing, what we have here is a little bit different. So instead of making the Chancellor seem like a jerk, we've made him seem like a more wise, sagely figure. He wants to know more about what's going on, and we have Christina trying to avoid the question. So maybe he says some little platitude, like those lost in prayer often have much to pray about, so what's on your heart? Like a little platitude, a little phrase that sounds smart, but it's more just getting to the root of the issue. She says it's something to concern yourself with, and then he points out, so you don't trust me. No, I do trust you, just not enough to share your concerns. Wisdom can be shown without dropping proverbs. Wisdom can be shown by pointing out an obvious issue or getting to the root of a problem. Think about Master Oogway and Kung Fu Panda. Like I pointed out in my video on the subject, Master Oogway, got to the root of Poe's problem very easily. And he didn't do it by putting Poe down or by dropping a lot of proverbs or sayings. He just basically pointed out, you're upset about what could be and what isn't and what will happen. But that's not worth worrying about. Sometimes the wisest thing to do, the wise character, is just someone who points at the truth when no one else wants to see it or can't see it. So that would be how I would write a more wise character. So that there is that. Raven, can you see the other question I commented earlier? I made 3. Let me scroll back up. Keep in mind, as I'm answering questions, I may not see everything that goes by. Hey, let's see. Scrolling back up. The reason okay, let me see what you asked. Raven, I have a question. How were Slavic people and or immigrants treated in America during and after the Cold War? Don't know. Make that a new. Can you see? I don't know. My specialty is not the Cold War. My special is medieval history. So can't answer that one. All right, so that is definitely a start. Any other questions while I find some more music with which to get me inspired? What's the name of the story that you're working on? Nothing right now. I was just using an example. Nothing about it that is necessarily... nothing about it that I'm working on for a specific story. Oh, this will do. I know this. We can do this one. Let's see if my headphones will work this time so that there's not an echo. Because I hate echoes. Very good. Apparently not. Yeah, my headphones aren't working anymore. Oh well, one more thing that I need to replace. That sucks. Hope y'all don't mind the echo. Anyway, I know this is off topic, but would Pike and Shot tactics work in Warhammer 40k? I have idea of a chapter that uses such tactics. No idea. What was the most gruesome duel you know of in medieval Europe? No idea. I was wondering about writing villains. Oftentimes in modern media, the villain is portrayed as sympathetic, but is there a way to write this chapter but will root for their characters but will root for their downfall or subvert it? You're talking about writing against the grain of gray morality, and the key there is just to make them reprehensible. Writing a reprehensible villain, a villain who you want to hate. The key there is to, you can still make them unique, but you need to give them traits that you're not going to empathize with. Like, you don't want the villain to make the hero empathize with them. Like, take Thanos, for example. Thanos tried to get the Avengers to understand why he was doing what he was doing. But he was trying to be a complex villain. Like, he was trying to be an empathetic villain. The Joker is the opposite. The Joker does what he does. He doesn't care if Batman understands why he does what he does. Joker doesn't understand why he does what he does. He just does what he does, So the key is to not even give a crap about the empathetic aspect. How can I write a story with bigotry as a part of it? I mean, you add in the bigotry. Like, it's not that complicated. You add in a character who is bigoted. That's how you do that. Hey, Flute. Is there an echo on your side, Raven? Because I don't hear an echo. Well, my headphones aren't working, so I'm having to just play the music audibly, and if my microphone picks it up, y'all will get an echo. Not with skin color, but with Russia and America. Well, if you're writing bigotry between Russia and America, I mean, yeah, just have the two hate each other. It's not difficult. Like, you just write out. You can have two characters talking about how much they hate Russia and they're American, or you can have two Russians talk about how much they hate America. You can have propaganda pieces talking about the enemy. You know, like, you can do any of those things. Those will all work for what you're trying to do. Hey Raven, how could I write a character who is nervous and doubtful leader of a faction during a war? Okay, so the way you write a character who is nervous and doubtful as a leader is you typically want to write a contrast. Like, you want to write the character vocally being a leader, but inwardly not so much. So, like, I would recommend reading Caiaphas Cain, the Caiaphas Cain series. That's an excellent example. A guy who exudes leadership, but has a lot of self-doubt and fear. So, like, it's a balancing act. You need to create an external sense of leadership and an internal sense of doubt. And that can be done through dialogue as the external and internal monologue as the internal. That would be what I would say. Hey Raven, if Apollyon was a Warhammer 40k, would she be a Chaos Cultist or an Inquisitor? I don't know. That was already asked and already answered. I don't know. I'm trying to keep this discussion on writing, if we could. Favorite and least favorite trope? I answered that as well. I say that my least favorite trope is the Chosen One. I think the Chosen One is my least favorite. What do I think of allegory versus applicability? Okay, there's a good question. I would say that allegory versus applicability has a root issue in its discussion. Allegory being the idea that you have to insinuate or imply meaning, whereas applicability is you directly apply it. I guess that's what you're trying to ask. I think that allegory has its place, and it depends very much on what you're trying to create. Like C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia is very much allegorical, and you can't ignore that. The allegory is a fundamental part of the story, and I think that you couldn't have The Chronicles of Narnia without that allegory, and it's a fine story for it. But I think that there is also something to be said that sometimes a spade is a spade, if you will. Sometimes I think that it is necessary just to state what something is plainly. However, literary devices can be used to avoid just being lazy and just saying, like, for example, Aslan was supposed to be a stand-in for Jesus in the Chronicles of Narnia, and he acted like Jesus, but there were also moments where he said direct Jesus lines, like when he killed the White Witch, he said, "It is done, it is finished," like, "it is done," which is a direct quote of Jesus. I think that was a little heavy-handed. I think that was a little ham-fisted. So you could probably avoid that in your allegory. I think that would make it work a little bit better. So that is my stance on it. I think it has its place, but it needs to be handled delicately. So that would be my chance on it. What author got you to be an author? Myself. I just wanted to write stories, really. When writing a fanfic, do I throw whatever and see what sticks? I mean, if it's a fanfic, it's going to be what you want it to be. So it's going to be what you want to see. So if I'm writing a fanfiction, I will do the best I can. Here's the thing. Fanfiction is kind of your baby. You're going to do what you want with it. But at the end of the day, if I were to give advice on writing fanfiction, you need to make sure that you know the lore of what you're writing. So, like, for example, I'll give you all an example. Let's back out of this. Let's find... let's do this. So this is sort of a fanfiction I did called Cobras in the Grass, a Warhammer 40k story, which is the story of my own created Astartes chapter called The Black Cobras. I needed to make sure, this took a long time to write, because I had to make sure that I knew as much as I could about Warhammer 40k so that I could write this. I had to understand the dialogue, I had to understand the processes, I had to understand how people talk to one another, the chain of command. I had to do a lot of research, and that can mean fan fiction itself can be a bit of a mixed bag, because you got to make sure that you know what you're doing when you write it. If you're going to write a fan fiction about Naruto or One Piece or something like that, you need to know the lore. You need to know what you're writing, otherwise it's going to really mess you up. So that would be my answer to that. What matters most to a character in terms of leadership, experience, or formal training? Say you have two officers of different fields, but high rank and an experienced, lower ranked officer who seeds. Okay, so good question, Sushi. Here's my answer to that. Practically speaking, like we're talking like in most military circumstances, the officer of higher rank has jurisdiction. But the lower rank officer with more experience will often be looked to. Like, I'll give you an example. From Caiaphas Cain, in the very first book, we meet a colonel and her major. The colonel was made major only because she had worked she'd only been in office, she'd only been a soldier for 5 months longer than her major. But her major had way more battlefield experience. So it had some friction between the two because she was the colonel and he was underneath her. And he resented that. They had to work that out. His experience had to help boost her up, and through his experience, she was able to become a better colonel. So it's something that would cause friction, but it's something that you can use to create better dynamics in the characters. Was perpetual traits a mistake? Should it be reversed? What do you mean perpetual traits? The Basilisk based Astartes? No, the Black Cobras are different from that. I only got time to ask one question, so here it goes. I'm trying to create a story where the main character is a werewolf, and I want to make the best aspect truly horrifying. You want to make the best aspect truly horrifying? I don't know how to do it. What aspect are you trying to make horrifying? How would you write nuanced racism? Like, do you mean in a real-world setting or in a fantasy setting? Because that would be two different answers. How would you write nuanced racism? How would you do you mean like an elf and a dwarf style racism, or do you mean black and white style racism? Like, give me what you mean by that and I'll answer. Have you read fan fiction? Trust me, they don't care or know the lore of the thing they're talking about, but you are right, they should. Well, like I said, I'm giving fan fiction advice. I know, like I said, fan fiction is your baby and you can do whatever the hell you want with it, but I'm saying for good fan fiction, you should care about the lore. 2 questions in one when writing an alien invasion story. Oh, okay. Real world. So how do you write real world racism nuanced? Okay. The short answer is experience. I wrote a short story a long time ago where a Vietnam War veteran fought in Vietnam and lost his brother, really, in the violence. Now he has a next door neighbor who's from Asia and he hates them. They haven't done anything to him, but because of what the Vietnamese took from him, he has a quiet hatred for Asian people. On the one hand, it's wrong that he hates people of a different race because that's racism. But on the other hand, you also kind of understand why, because of that experience of what he lost and what he suffered. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it more understandable. So the short answer to that is experience. What has happened to them to turn them racist? See, here's the thing. I don't think people are born racist. I don't think you're born racist. I think it's taught. I think you become it through either taught or experience. Taught racism is usually taught by those around you. Experience racism is something you develop for yourself through experience. And when you're writing it, you need to make sure that you elaborate on that experience. That would be my answer. Raven, if a superhero had a tough choice to sacrifice himself, how can I write that? You write it in a self-sacrifice. You write that, like, you create the stakes. Instances of a character knowing information only because the author does, I suppose. Well, you see, nuanced racism is acknowledged every race except elves have their good habits and bad habits. I suppose. Is there a way to create a convincing redemption arc? Yes. Someone who is truly a villain but in time turns into a true hero to his people. Yes, there is a way to do that. There is a way to do that. It is called good writing. What's your threshold where descriptors go from setting a rich environment or a character description into needlessly masturbatory purple prose that chokes the story's flow? Wow. It's a good question. Let's see. What you want to do when describing a setup is you want to establish the senses. Describe how it feels, sounds, looks, and at least touches. Create an environment. If you start going into too much detail on any of these points, it's going to get weird. So let's see. Let me find a good one right here. let's try this one. Okay, so I wrote this in my fanfiction story here. Let's read this. The ramp of the ship opened before it had even touched the ground. I led the men behind me out and down the ramp towards the battle lines. The sight was unique, to say the least. At one time, this area may have been a park, reserve, or perhaps even a zoo. There are. Good catch. The area was dense with jungle and foliage and made visibility nigh impossible for further than 12 to 20 meters. However, the necessity of war saw much of this jungle torn up and turned to mulch and mud, as now a great angry scar of devastation created a large firing line facing the west. Large makeshift walls had been erected as long battle lines, and I could see guardsmen hurrying up and down these lines, shouting orders, carrying equipment, and setting up for what they believed to be a very intense battle. Before us, waiting on the landing platform, were 3 human men and a woman. The men were wearing military uniforms of the Imperial Guard, blood and mud stained, and the man at the front, with matted black hair and dull gray eyes, looked positively exhausted. The woman, though, was quite different. She had long honey blonde hair that fell around her face with a single white streak running down a bang. She was kneeling with her hands in the sign of the Aquila. She wore regal gray power armor, and her head was bowed a sore Regis. So a lot of this was built on visual. And I didn't go into too much detail on anything. I didn't just describe in intense detail every single thing. I gave the basics. And that's kind of where you want to go. You want to kind of lean into the basics. Don't just run it. Don't do what Tolkien does. I know Tolkien's a genius writer, but don't do what he does, where he describes the bark of every piece of tree. Okay? He's the kind of guy who count the number of tree limbs are on every tree in the forest. Don't do that. That gets tedious and people get bored of it. Keep it to the basics. Raven, how do you create a villain that has lost a family and therefore on a path to vengeance? Write a villain who has lost their family and are therefore on a path to vengeance. I mean, there's no formula for that. You have to get creative. Don't call to the reader the sense of the room if it's normal. Describe the acrid iron smell clinging to their nostrils, the reek of blood in the room. Yes, if you walked into a room that just had a bloodbath, you can describe the smell. If you've walked onto a battlefield, you can describe gun smoke in the air. You know, that kind of thing. But if you're walking into a room that you're used to, like let's say that I'm a Hogwarts student and I walk into the Transfiguration classroom. If it smells and feels like everywhere else in the castle, I'm going to describe it that way. There's no real need to go into further detail than just what it looks like. Is there a time when first-person angle is better than the third-person angle when writing stories or vice versa? First person is best used when you want to go deeper into the character's feelings. When you want to explore a character's inner thoughts or feelings, first person is best. When you want to get a general overall descriptor of the world around you and the experiences of multiple characters, third person is the best way to go. They both have their gifts, and I find beauty in all of them. So that would be my answer to that. First person is best when you want to get a descriptor. See if I can pull up another one. Let's go to my easiest place to get information. Alright, let's go here because a lot of my stories end up here anyway. Do I not have any more of these? Hold on. Let me go to my other one. Why ask why writing advice? That was fun. Anyway, how well does a character with opposing traits work? As an example, a character that is diplomatic and eager to talk things out, but also intoxicated with violence and warfare. Those are hard characters to write. In fact, contrasting values and contrasting views is often impossible to write a character because people are going to notice the issue. In fact, some would call that bad character writing because you're literally creating a character that is a hypocrite. What you may want to do is have one of the traits that they expose be a front, be a lie. So, like, you could have a character that's war crazy and wants to go fight, but outwardly he portrays like he's a diplomat, like Horus in Warhammer. He secretly wanted to get down and dirty in the thick of it, but he pretended to be a diplomat. Trying to find a good one. Maybe this one, Rock and Roll Angel. Let me see. Yeah, this one's more of just descriptors. So kind of like Dexter Raven. Oh, the show Dexter? I'd never really watched much of it, so... here's a good one. Caiaphas Cain, The Greatest Challenge. I wrote this a while ago for Hannah. This is one where descriptors and inner monologue are king. Caiaphas Cain is all about those inner monologues. So, because Caiaphas Cain writes like he's writing a log, he's writing a diary. So in this case, I had to write like it was that kind of log. So, for example, we open here. In my long and admittedly ignominious career in the loyal service of the Imperium, I feel it fair to state that I've confronted every trial that can be confronted by a citizen of His Majesty. Demons, Warpspawn, Necrons, Eldar, both tainted and free of corruption, Tau, Chaos Cultists, Orcs, and of course Tyranids. In every circumstance, I found myself confronted by death and worse, yet almost always somehow able to wriggle my way out of trouble and destruction thanks in no small part to my natural gift at survival, manipulation, and a certain degree of luck. It was bound to happen that, at some point in my life, I'd be forced to confront a challenge I simply couldn't wiggle out of. Of course, this challenge did present itself upon me in the most unexpected of ways. And as fate would have it, and Emperor knows I should have expected, it was a trial I ended up bringing upon myself. So, you can set up a great contrasting character, this dude who has faced all these struggles, all these difficulties, but he's also a bit of a coward. He's a little self-seeking. He's aware of his own faults. That can be a very fun opening to a character. Raven, if you want to make a story horrifying but non-redundant using old monsters like vamps, lycans, and others, how do I avoid making it redundant and predictable? Honestly, there's no easy way to do that because if you're creating vampires and werewolves, they're going to follow existing tropes. You have to find a way to subvert them. Do you read the works of others before you write to get yourself primed and ready? Yes, sometimes I do listen to other people's works, especially if I feel like the writing that they do is going to give me inspiration for what I want to create. Like, for me, I'll do it one of two ways. If I'm writing For Honor and Glory, I listen to the Caiaphas Cain novel series because that was a huge inspiration. But if I want to just write something like The Sorceress, which is another story that I'm working on, then I just flex my own writing muscles. I just dive into it. If I'm writing the Edenite Chronicles, I just dive into it. Now, if you want to talk about, like I was asked earlier about descriptors, if you want to talk about descriptors, What's Real was one of my short stories where I did a lot of descriptors. Like, I just blew up with descriptors here. Do you think there is an upper limit for the number of characters you want to focus on in a story? I think the more characters you add, the heavier it's going to be to keep them all under control. I would limit myself. You can add as many characters you want, but focus on probably no more than 4 or 5 tops, because you're going to get overwhelmed by too many characters. I learned that with Monster Club. I had way too many characters going on at once, and it did overwhelm me. Am I planning to continue with For Honor and Glory? Yes, I am. But yeah, so like to give you an idea of descriptors, take a look at this one. I convinced myself more than once that it was nothing but a dream. Perhaps the whole thing was just made up in my head. My sensations tried to tell me otherwise, but my heart could barely comprehend it. I lay here in the grass beneath me with the wind brushing hair across my brow and the sunset casting its incredible art across the sky. The gradual hues of hot pink and warm oranges that poured out from the descending sunshine painted the horizon. As the streaks of blue and purple of the night sky beyond them giving off something of a skyline shadow to kiss the light goodbye, I turned my head up to the sky to take in the sight. I had to strain my head a little to see beyond the peach tree branches that hung out like a canopy umbrella to cover me from above. The gentle breeze blew the leaves softly, and the flower petals of the tree swayed along with an indescribable grace that reminds me of, yet again, something out of a dream. I attempted to adjust my body and sit up some more, but an unfamiliar weight on my chest stopped me. My eyes turned away from the beauty of the heavens to look down at the glory resting on my chest. Her body was like the most delicate rose petal, small and as if the slightest touch would send me into fits of ecstasy. I hesitated to brush her long strand of silky hair out of her face. Her eyes were closed, but I knew that behind her lids lay a pair of blue eyes that could rival the ocean itself for depth and the sun for brilliance. Her head was nestled on my chest just above my pectoral, and her soft cheek pressed ever so softly to me that it managed to mush a little into her face in an adorable frame. Her lips were closed, luscious and enticing me to kiss them, but I withheld, not only because doing so would wake her, but because leaning down far enough to do that would be quite difficult, since her head was just up under my chin, that if I turned my head far enough down to look at her, my chin would brush her hair. Her ear was pressed to where I could feel my heart beating like a drum, not out of fear, but out of excitement. I shivered involuntarily, and my arm that wrapped around her like a sheet now gently moved along her hair, brushing it down with my fingers and sliding it behind her ear. She stirred but didn't wake, and I felt my breath catch in my throat as the way she moved. Her shirt fell off her shoulders slightly, revealing her fair, bare flesh. Her left arm was placed on me as if I were a tree for her to cling to, a lifeline in a storm. Her other arm was tucked up between her chest and my side, curled in a manner so as to take up as little space as possible. Her breasts, I could feel them against my side, and I inhaled deeply at the realization of how they touched me. She was not naked. She wore a t-shirt that prevented direct skin contact and a leather jacket that hugged her figure, the color of polished wood. Her jeans felt coarse, and yet the soft legs under them betrayed a gentle caress as one leg straddled. Her soft breathing caused her whole body to fill and then collapse again. I was so starkly aware of the way she felt, breathed, and moved. Every sense and every motion of her gorgeous form left me speechless, so I couldn't have said her name even if I wanted to. I didn't, of course. I wanted to stay like this for as long as possible. I wiggled my feet a bit as they were very close to the edge of the hill. This tree that we lay in under was stood stoic on the top of a grassy hill that overlooked the city beyond it. It was a quiet place that I felt somewhat detached from the world. As the sun faded away beyond the city and beyond sight, the light caught her hair, and for the briefest of moments, I swore that I saw it glow, shimmering like gold in candlelight. I could barely look her in the face. It was liable to bring tears to my eyes. How could something like her be real? How could this moment be a real thing? It wasn't. I knew it wasn't. It just couldn't be. Things like this don't happen to people like me. I felt the tears trickle down my cheeks from the unpleasant conclusion, and the shuddering of my heart must have stirred me as she finally looked up at me, those unwavering blue sapphires giving me the almost innocent smile. All of that was just pure descriptor. That was pure description. That is what you can do when you dive into description. And I would even argue that was too much. I would even argue I went further than I needed to. I could have spaced out some of this as the story progressed, but I threw it all in at the beginning. I don't think it was bad necessarily, but I think I did go a little further than I needed to. Can love bloom even on a battlefield? Yes, sure, it can. But yeah, this one was very unique. What are some good method tips or secrets about writing first person? I tend to focus on third person. Write like it's yourself. Think. What do you tell yourself in your head? That's usually how you want to write first person. But yeah, I did make this one incredibly visual. And it's very short. This was a very short story. So, like, not that hard to read. And then A Faithful Heart, one of my longer stories, was also very descriptive. But I didn't just describe a character, I described a setting. I described a setup. You need to set a scene and a tone, and that's what you always want to do with a story. Set a scene and a tone. So that would be a very good piece of advice. When you're opening a story, set a scene and set a tone. That would be my very first important piece of advice. Do I think there were too many dwarves in The Hobbit? Nah. Nah, I don't think so. I'm looking back at some of these, a little surprised by them. Tea with a King, that was an old one. I wrote that back in 2020. How would you write dialogue for a character that is reticent and closed off? I fear it would be hard to communicate with someone who pauses and ellipses before it becomes irritating to a reader. In that case, talk through visual motive. So let's actually take this to the paper. Let's actually show you. So let's try this. Let's bring Christina back. But we're going to tell it from a new perspective. So, with this, the character said very little. She didn't have to. I think she said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words total. But I still said a lot more without having to use dialogue. So the key here was what I wanted to do was create dialogue through action. Like, for example, she bit her lip. A sure sign she wanted to say more, maybe that today was not fine at all. Again, she bit her lip, but this time she began brushing her fingers over her hair as if to draw the bangs in front of her face, trying to hide her gaze. Again, trying to create a wall. And then, of course, she finally turned her gaze back to Sam, and he could make out the shimmering tears in her eyes. She's very sad. She doesn't want to tell him, and she wants him to stop asking, but she doesn't want to just straight up say it. So, quite often, you can tell a lot from a character and what they want to say without saying anything. So that would be how I do that. So there you go. That is an example of how I would write that. And of course, all this is just a rough draft. I would go back over it once or twice and make minor edits, but that is just a quick example of what I would do. Anything else y'all want to talk about? Any advice or things like that? Alright, we're doing real good. The music is still going strong. I was supposed to write a story, but I got too gushy. Couldn't work up the courage. Kept writing stuff to get the juices going, and then not doing it. Know how to write a story in the theme of Conan the Barbarian? I mean, no, I don't know how to do that, but I've learned. Why not use his character Christina to begin writing something like a fantasy church kind of story about a cleric? Oh, Christine is an existing character in a story that I'm creating separately. She's a sister of battle in a Warhammer 40k story. Ain't that right, Mark?
Correct.
And you like Christine?
Correct.
The poor thing.
Correct.
Got it really wrong.
Understand.
She's got it real bad. Oh, I feel. She's got it bad, people. She's got it bad. No, it's not. It's not a romance story. It's not a romance thing. It's more of a.
Nothing can be fun.
Nothing can be. No, it has nothing to do with romance. It's more to do with suffering. She is very much suffering. What about characters meant to exist to pad things out? In a horror story, someone needs to die, but the party needs to lean to support character development. So you got to have red shirts. Yeah, in a horror story, you're gonna have red shirts. If you wanna have a character just padded out, just existing to die, I would hide that. Like, make them seem like characters that are going to last. Like, a character who makes smart decisions and have them die. Like, you don't expect the smart one to die. If you just write a really dumb character, like a stupid character who's just set up to die, you could do that, but people are going to see it coming, so, I don't know. Yeah, Hannah knows who Christina is, don't you, Hannah? You know all about her. He's like, And how? How would you write a scene in a way that flows without it tripping over itself? I've always made it choppy or added too much fluff. Well, that comes with practice. that comes with practice. A scene needs to flow properly, and that means, think of it as a domino effect. One thing happens, then therefore another thing happens, then therefore another thing happens. Never, ever, ever, and I want to make y'all understand this, do not write a story in terms of, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, because that's going to make it choppy. What you want to do is say, this happened, and because this happened, this next thing happened. And then as a result of that happening, this happened. You know? So, let's do an example. Gandalf the Wizard showed up at Bilbo Baggins' house and spoke to him. Because of that, Bilbo Baggins went into his house and Gandalf wrote a mark on his door. Because he put the mark on the door, the next thing you know, a bunch of dwarves show up at Bilbo Baggins' house wanting to go on a quest with him. Because they want to go on a quest, Bilbo Baggins is very upset and very angry until Gandalf comes in to explain the situation and offer him the chance to be in on an adventure. Bilbo Baggins is at first uncertain about this, but because the dwarf seemed so merry and happy and it was filling a piece of him that he never knew he had, he decides to go along with them. As a result of Bilbo going along with them, the crew has a burglar who is able to help them figure out how to get around trolls and spiders and so many other things along the way. As a result of him following along with the group, he manages to come across Gollum, who has the one ring to rule them all, though Gollum doesn't know it. As a result of him being a poet and knowing how to use riddles to outwit Gollum, he manages to get hold of the ring in the process. As a result of getting the ring, he's able to use the ring to slip around Smaug and steal something. As a result of stealing from Smaug, Smaug gets angry and attacks Lake Town. You see how one thing leads to another, and then to another, and then to another, and to another. That is the process of flowing story writing. Hey Raven, have you ever written a character that is a playboy womanizer? Yes. What are some ways to write them without being too over the top or perhaps too vulgar? Unfortunately, if you want to make them unlikable, they're going to be a bit vulgar. They're going to be a bit of a womanizer. They're going to be a little bit inappropriate. That is the unfortunate nature of being a womanizer. I mean, it's hard to write a womanizer who isn't a bit vulgar, at least in their speech. Like, take Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He straight up says, it's not right for a woman to read. Then they start getting ideas and thinking. Like, that's pretty messed up. But like, you're gonna have to step into that a little. Would you often use romance as a subplot or a major arc? I know men like Nicholas Sparks will now make a fortune off of it. Well, that depends on what you're trying to write. If you're writing Avatar: The Last Airbender, romance was definitely a subplot. It was not meant to be a major arc. But if you're writing The Notebook, that is the primary conflict. Romance is the primary thing. So it depends on what you're trying to write. Have you seen The Boys? I think it has an amazing story, but it completely overshadowed by the over-the-top lewdness and violence. How would you write a violent story without turning off your audience? The way you write violence without turning off your audience is give the violence context, subtext, and stakes. Mindless violence for the sake of mindless violence will turn off an audience. Even if it's cool. Even if it's cool, it will only grab your attention for a little while before people walk away from it. You need the stakes. I would not care so much about Space Marines slaughtering Tyranids if I didn't understand why the Tyranids are a threat, what is at risk, and how much the Tyranids need to be destroyed. That is important. That is important to me. I'm not a big fan of The Boys just because I'm sick of the evil superheroes trope. So yeah, I can't speak to that. I mean, I forget that Sanji's a womanizer. Sanji has his moments. Like literally in the Sanji, like literally when he's injured in the Drum Kingdom arc, he tries to put his head on Nami's boobs. Let's be honest. He's not without his vulgar moments. Like Sanji has his moments. So I'm not gonna pretend like he doesn't. I'd say don't fetishize or relish in the violence unless you're in the POV of a character who loves it. Well, yeah, obviously. The key is if your whole point is to write violence, then no one's going to care. If you write the context and stakes to it, more people will care about it. If you want people to care about why the violence is happening, write it that way. What do you think about Blood Meridian? What's Blood Meridian? I don't. Do you know what Blood Meridian is? Blood Meridian. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, Christina's story sucks. The poor thing. I could write Christina's story while we're here. I could just start writing, like, maybe the after version of what happens to her. Yeah, essentially sushi. I'm gonna make a cartoon where the angels are evil. Wow, daring today, aren't we? And God is a big fat lying meanie. Wow, don't throw your neurons out, Tolkien. That sums it up. Raven, do you know how to write a power fantasy? No, but I can learn. I'm writing a story for my warden and I'm stuck. My question is, what do you think is the opinion and perspective of the common people and nobility after Apollyon's death? Hard to say. It's hard to say. Depends on how long after and what's going on. Blood Meridian is a book that will never and shouldn't be made into a movie or show. Well, I don't know anything about it. There you go. Raven, have you read the First Law trilogy? No, I have not. Blood Meridian on Netflix would cause aneurysm across the country like a wave. I apparently need to look up Blood Meridian. I just want to write Christina now. I'm gonna write Christina now. Do you think Christina should be in first or third person? Third person? We'll try third first, and then we'll see how that goes.
Third first and first third.
Do the first third and the third first. Absolutely. I feel like someone dropped the. Remember the super elaborate the.
How could I?
No, okay. All right. Well, there's a start. All of a sudden, Raven's house is on fire. You're like, why? Why didn't you finish your report? Yes. Can I offer you a view in this trying time? Please do, the last guy, Lander. You're not implying, Atla, that Raven's going to get infected by Kibble and turn into a dog like Della. Oh, that'd be terrifying. Hey, does anyone have tips on trying to write a story with power creeps but keep it manageable? Depends on the kind of power creep. How about a point of view switch be pulled off? Oh, we could totally do a point of view switch at some time. Of course, given the story that Christina's a part of, because Christina's story, I'll be real, is only part of a larger story. Like, there are multiple stories going on within this one thing. Because Christina's story is a part of an overall campaign to save an entire world from a chaos invasion in Warhammer 40k. Christina's story is just a piece of that story. There's also what's going on with the Lord General who's running the campaign. You got the story going on from the Chaos War Chief. You got the story going on from an Astartes unit that's been called in. There are multiple stories going on at once. So I could definitely do a point of view shift throughout this. But yeah, this is definitely a start. Anyway, yay! How should a point of view switch be pulled off? How should it be pulled off? I would change the very characters that you're doing it from. I would change the very characters that you're doing it from. If you want a point of view switch, have it switch to an, like, have it be where if there's a disaster happening, for example, right before the disaster hits, pull away from the character you're talking through, and then switch to a third person to overall describe the massive amount of destruction going on. That would be the way I would. Ah, that explains why Christina got turned into 80 ounces of red soup in a backpack. No, Christina didn't get... Well, she kind of did, but she didn't. Should I tell him? No. It's hard. They're not going to get it unless I tell them.
That's part of the fun of it.
See ya. Let's make them squirm. Hey, Raven, how's the stream going? It's going, man. It's going all right. How often should a writer listen to their fans? You should always listen to your fans. Just don't always take their advice to heart. You should always listen to your fans. Just don't always do what they tell you to do. Because your fans aren't always going to have your story's best interest at heart. They're going to want what they want. I think it's important to listen to fans, because getting an understanding of where other people... No, don't say nothing, Raven. Okay, Hannah wants me to stay quiet about Christina's backstory. I don't know. I don't know, guys. Maybe I should keep it secret.
Keep it secret.
Keep it safe. Tell you what, I'm gonna grab myself a drink. And then when I get back, I'll make a decision. Alright. Yeah, Tyler, that's the major problem. And the real issue is that, like, for example, take Metamorphosis. I think that's the ultimate example of what happened. Metamorphosis was a story where fans kept trying to make advice or requests of where the story should go, and they got exceedingly inappropriate. They got really weird to me, and I was just so undone by them that I sabotaged the story just to avoid giving the fans what they were looking for. just to let them know, no, I'm not going in the direction you want me to go. I will never go in that direction. But in doing so, I sabotage the story. And as a result, yeah, the story's kind of effed now. So, like, never compromise the story you want to make for something that you know is wrong for the story. However, at the same time I say that, don't discount good advice. Like, there's a difference between saying, okay, if someone came to me with Metamorphosis and they said, hey man, I think you should explore a bit more of Chase's relationship with his grandfather. It's good advice. That's good advice. I could dedicate some time to that. But if someone says, I want to see Chase get pregnant, F that. Like, walk away from that fast. I ain't touching that. Metamorphosis is a weird adult manga, or the one where the guy wakes up as an insect by Franz Kafka? No, the Metamorphosis story that Metamorphosis is a story I wrote. Hold on. Pull this up. Let's see. No, I want to go to the gallery. Metamorphosis is this story. How long was it? How long did I write this? Oh, chapter 31. So I guess I did 31 chapters. Who would have thought? Hannah did good art for this. It was a story that could have been better than what it was. Sort of like Star versus the Forces of Evil. I don't know anything about what Star or the Forces of Evil has to do with that. The art sucked for it. No, Hannah, you did good. Your art was good. Like, this was you. You did this one, as I recall. Yeah, you did this one. This one was good. I liked it. I liked that art. It was good. Also, what website are you posting these stories on, Raven? DeviantArt. But yeah, Hannah, I like this. I like that one. That one was good. Anyway. Music is very relaxing. I feel like I need to take a nap. Well, if you ever feel down to just go, the best I can do is stick figures. Hannah's a great artist. She's selling herself short. Also, it's a good idea to listen to the fans when they were making a story based on a franchise. Yes, you want to listen to the fans of a franchise, especially when you're making a fan fiction, you know? It was a Disney cartoon that was so popular that it was killed by the shippings. No, I mean, I know what Star vs. the Forces of Evil is. I'm just saying, like, what does that have to do with, like, that issue? It does not bode well to speak ill of one's talent, and that goes for you as well, Raven. Oh, trust me. I know that my writing could be better. I'm not going to say it's terrible. I know it could be better, though. I need to practice. I need to keep practicing. Actually, you know what? I know that most of them don't care about Christina's stories, so what if we did something different? Oh, we're nearing the end of this music. Only about a minute left. No. It was such good music. another one. Let's see if we can't find another one that'll be lengthy but good. Actually, these are playlists. Jesus. Let's see. Yes, this'll do. I'll take what I can get at this point. All right. Well, I guess I'll get back to work on this. Let's see. Gotta go, everyone. Sorry, Sushi X, but that's a lovely story, Raven. Thanks for answering my questions. I'll be more specific next time. Tell Lark I need more Lamentations. We'll get to work on that. I put that theoretical scene and share your stories. All right, I'll take a look at that later. But thanks for coming, Wyatt. Glad you could join us. I would work on my John Who Legend story right now, but I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. I hate spoilers. Unless you just don't care and you want me to work on it now. I mean, I can still work on Christina now if y'all want. When would making real-world parallels in a story become annoying? When they're done too often. Raven, how would I put dark themes in a story for kids? Should I put happy ending and lighter part in between? Well, go with the Don Bluth method. Don Bluth said that you can do as much dark as you want in a kid's story as long as you end on a happy ending. Go with the Don Bluth method. Get dark. Get scary. Get ugly. Just make sure it's all happy in the end. Have you ever seen American Tail or Land Before Time? Or Secret of Nim? There's Secret. that's how the secret. Here, let's. This is a good place to rest for now, but let me back out. Make some additions. Gets me in fan fiction is the question if you should introduce characters. Like, obviously everyone knows who Obi-Wan is, but what if someone just reads it and doesn't get the threat? That's a choice you have to make. For me, I assume that my readers may not know everything about the world that I'm writing about, so I drop a little bit of information. Like in the Warhammer 40k fan fictions that I write, I tend to, sometimes give a little bit of extra information, maybe not too much, but just enough to sort of get people to understand what's happening. Because I have to assume that not everyone's going to know everything about what I'm writing, you know? So I think that that's probably one of the better options to go with. Just assume that your reader is ignorant. Let's see. Oh, this will do. That's pretty. It's very pretty. We'll work with that. All right. How would you rate the story of Neo 2? Because I'm told a lot of folk didn't like in Neo 1 how you feel like a background character for a Taiga drama. Yeah, Neo 1 had the misfortune of having you star as a character that really is a background figure. Neo 2 felt a lot better. I feel like Neo 2 did a much better job with its story, so I would definitely say Neo 2 did a really good job. So yeah. Between the two, I would say Neo 2 is definitely the superior story, honestly. I mean, that's just my opinion, of course. Now that I think on it, a lot of the Assassin's Creed games had you as a background character to more famous historical figures, though they did have their own stories in the wings to speak. Well, Assassin's Creed games are telling your story with history as the background. Like, you are basically in the back. You are basically a background character historically, but we're seeing your story in the background. We are moving the background character to the foreground of Assassin's Creed. Hey Raven, what story did you have the most fun writing? Oh. Either Monster Club or Tale of Tomoki. Those two are probably the stories that I had the most fun writing. Like, they made me so happy. Shogun of Crime was fun too. I'm not done with it, but it was very fun to work on. Those would be that would be my answer to that. Now I pause a moment and think on what I've just written. I love Monster Club. Yeah, I love Monster Club too, man. What a story. You know, sometime what I may do is, actually, since I still can't use the PlayStation for streaming just yet, Monday we're going to do a reading stream, but Tuesday, if I still can't stream, I might play the Monster Club game for you guys. That might be fun. Yeah, we might do that. What do you think, Bart? It could be done. Could be. That'd be fun. Anyway, you know, I think we might want to go ahead and end the stream there. Not a lot else is going on. I think most everyone in the chat has kind of calmed down with their questions, and I don't want to tell too much more about the story yet. I don't want to give away too many things. So yeah, we'll probably end the stream there. We've been going for about, say, maybe an hour and a half at this point. We started about 8:15. It's 9:45 now. Yeah. I think we can wrap things up there. What do you think, Clark?
Yeah, I think it might not be good.
All right, let's go ahead and call it there. Well, this was an interesting thing to try. I think that I had fun doing it. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope that this was unique for you guys. For sure, we will definitely. I don't know if we'll do this again. We might. I don't know. I'll need to see. I'll need to see if I want to do this again. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed and would like me to do more streams like this, because, I don't know, it felt a little bit weird, but, I mean, if y'all enjoyed it, I can definitely do it again. It wasn't hard. I'll probably just have to be writing most of the time, though, because I feel like I need to make some progress on stories. But anyway, that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much, and as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care.
Have a good one.